So I'm at the bus here. Gonna get a little work in this evening and tomorrow before we take off on a vacation. So what I did right now here is I've laid out the lines to cut for the trap door or the access door in this floorboard. You'll see that what I've done is I've made it on the halfway mark of these 2x3s that go across so that each side of this hatch is going to have support. I'm going to cut clean through. It'll hinge on this side here up against the couch over here. That's where the hinging will happen. The hinges will be on top of the floorboards. They're decorative hinges, so they won't look too awful. I may want to get a little router bit and recess them. I gotta look at that when I'm ready to do that step. But what I'm going to do right now is I've relocated screws, and you'll see I've moved one that was right in the middle here, put one on each side, so that the trap door and the rest of the floor are both secured to the support underneath. So what I'm going to do right here is run the saw down these lines and cut the three sides. I'll finish the corners with a hand saw, unless I can locate my jigsaw. It might be around here somewhere. So anyhow, I'm going to get at it. Okay, so I just use that circular saw to cut along these lines. Wasn't easy on these extension cords. I was tripping the breaker a couple times. I forgot to shut the fan off. I'm going to turn it back on though because it's muggy in here. I definitely want to get these max fans installed. Hopefully tomorrow, if I'm quick at it. Want to get the bus in a position where I can get some hot air sucked out of it with the summer approaching fast here. So I use this handy saw here to finish the edges. So I have the hatch cut out of the floor, and at this point just going to inspect it, make sure it turned out the way I was hoping, and then I can here within the next couple of weeks I can get the flooring down. I do want to get the walls painted first. So it's been a really hot day. It's about 8 o'clock at night now. I'm going to use a little bit of daylight that's left and the cooler temperatures to fix that leak in the roof. Just going to wire brush the seams, then use this elastomeric caulk piece of cardboard to spread it. The back hatch is the one that's leaking, but I'm going to put extra caulk all around the seams where it looks like the seam sealer may be light. So, you know, nobody ever said I used too much caulk. So I'm going to just add caulk where it might keep things from leaking. Okay, so I just used the wire wheel on the edges here. I'm going to do the bracing and the seams as I go down from the back to the front, paying special attention to this patch where I know it's leaking. So I'm going to start squeezing caulk, and then I'll move down to the next section. So I've got the hatch here wire wheeled. I'm going to goop all the way around. I want to make sure it's super sealed, and put a very thick amount of caulk on here. So hopefully that solves the problem. I'm about to go on vacation. I don't want a bunch more water damage. Alright, so I finished caulking the seams here all the way down. Jumping around a little bit here, I'm going to install this fan, first of 3, in the ceiling. The hot weather's coming. We've already had some. Want to make sure I can work inside the bus without suffocating. So we're going to get these 3 fans put in. One of them's remote control, the other 2 are manual, where the floor is high enough that I can reach them. And then the remote control one's going to be in the back where the floor is much lower, and I wouldn't be able to reach. So I think I got 2 Fantastic and 1 Max Air, or vice versa. I just mixed up brands a little bit. So anyhow, I'm going to get started on the roof laying this out, and then I'll use a jigsaw to cut a box, test it, and then I'll seal it in with butyl tape and caulk and self-tapping screws. Then I'm going to put some caulk over the heads of the screws, some elastomeric caulk. So I've gathered my materials up. I've got the extension cord thrown over the roof here, the fan, bunch of tools, caulk, butyl tape, drill bit, jigsaw, and I'm a gambling man. Look at the clouds here. Hopefully I can get this fan in before we get any rain or it gets dark out. Sort of the evening hours here. So I've used a tape measure and a marker here, and gonna use the back of that saw as a straight edge, but I've got a 14-inch square laid out. I'm gonna cut just on the outer side of this line to make sure, because that's actually exactly 14 inches, and there's a pretty significant flange there. This original vent wasn't quite on center, so that's why it looks a little weird. So anyhow, this vent's coming out. I don't trust it not to leak, so the fan's going where it is. I already have the wiring inside ready to go, so time to drill a hole and start cutting. So in case you're wondering about your bus vent, it was this raised hole with this piece of wood or metal over it, and then the vent was on like so over top of it, or the other way around actually. But so I guess it probably wouldn't have leaked very easily, but nevertheless I wanted to put the fan here. So now I'm going to cut this styrofoam out. I may need to trim the edges a little bit to get the fan to fit perfectly in there. We'll see. But I'm going to get the foam out. Then I'm going to drill some corner holes through the inside so I can cut open the inside holes. I love it when a plan comes together right here on my fan wires. Handy dandy. So next thing I'm going to do is drill some corner holes so that I can jigsaw from the inside, get the wooden piece cut. So I've got this laid in place in the hole. Obviously, because of the bus curvature, we're going to need to put a little more of the what's that material? The butyl tape. A little more of the butyl tape on this side and this side to even things out. But the screws will pull this flange down a bit. But I'll put 2 layers on the sides, maybe an extra layer in the gap right here, and then we're also going to seal the edge nice with caulk after I wipe all this stuff down with paint thinner. First I'm going to go in, I'm going to cut the wood, and then I'll test the fan. So I have this marked on the inside, and I drilled a hole in the corner. I actually put screws through that I went up and removed afterward. You'll see little screw holes. Then I just connected the dots. That'll be pretty close to the right line. I may have to trim the edges a little bit for the guard, but hopefully not, or the trim piece. It's pretty wide. I'm going to try to cut to the outside of these lines slightly. The trim piece has a pretty wide collar on it. What do you know, some jackass cut a hole in my bus roof. So anyway, I'm going to use the wires there and get this fan tested. Then I'll finish the wiring, and I'll put the butyl tape down after wiping the edge and get it fastened in place to be watertight. Testing successful. It's actually strong enough to suck the little particles of styrofoam out. So yesterday evening I got that first fan put in place. My battery on the phone ran out, so I didn't get to film the last steps, but I've got 2 more fans here. This is a Max Air, and this one's a fantastic fan with remote control. This is going to go over the bathroom. This one's going to go in the middle of the bus. So I'm going to get the holes cut and get these installed. So one thing I did differently this time is I cut out some cardboard here as sort of a template, 14 and 1/8 inch, and then I just crisscrossed where I knew that the ribs were to kind of find the center. So that's a little quicker to lay this out, and I'll take some quick measurements, make sure my lines are good, and then I'm going to get the jigsaw out and cut it. So I got the sheet metal cut here. I just forgot my little hand saw down in the bus, so I got to grab that to cut the styrofoam out of the way. And once again, my wires are right where I needed them to be. All good. Okay, so I got 2 more holes in the roof, and it's time to put the fans in. I actually pre-tested them before I brought them up to the roof, so that was a little bit of a smarter way to do it. But anyhow, I'm ready to go wipe things down, put some butyl tape in, and screw them in place. Should be pretty quick at this point. Alright, so I put a square of butyl tape all the way around. I put 2 layers on the corners and a little thicker on the edges here. Now I'm going to use the self-tapping screws to screw this in place. These are just Tech roofing screws that I'm using. Okay, so I have it caulked, except for that far side over there. I've got to get on that side of it. I'm going to smooth it with my finger, kind of make sure the fasteners are coated with my finger as well. And then I'll move to the third vent fan and finish up for the night. So this job's almost complete. I actually, in addition to these factory holes, I actually put more screws in to make sure the butyl tape was squeezed out all the way around. And I'm going to use the razor now to trim the butyl tape, and then I'll put the caulk around the edge like I did last time. I actually think I like the Max Air fan installation a little bit better than this one. It seemed like the flaps were more rigid on the Max Air fan. Made a little bit easier seal, but it could just be personal preference here. But I'm going to get this trimmed and caulked and I'll be finished. And that's the Dometic one, the remote control skylight, last of the three. It's ugly, but it's not going to leak. Nobody ever said I wish I wouldn't have used as much caulk as I did. So, you know, trying to make sure it won't leak. The next thing I'm going to do is clean this roof. And I've got some elastomeric acrylic, cool paint from Blackjack. I wanted acrylic because I want things to be able to still stick to the roof. Silicone's a bit of a challenge in that regard. So I'm going to clean the roof and then I'll be painting the roof as long as I have good weather. That way when I work inside I've got a nice fairly cool bus to finish the project over the summer. And there we go. All three roof vents are in place. And I'm pleased. It turned out pretty good.